Introduction. Møvik Fort and Battery Vara were built by the Germans during the first years of the Second World War. It was a part of the Atlantic Wall. The Atlantic Wall comprised more than 15,000 heavily fortified positions built along the coasts of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, and Norway. This vast system of defensive works was intended to defend against Allied landings on the shores of these countries. Following the occupation of Norway on April 9, 1940, in the autumn of that year, the engineering arm of the Wehrmacht, Organization TOT, sent surveyors, architects, and engineers to Kristiansand to begin the planning of what would become Battery Vara. They were tasked with creating emplacements and support facilities for 4 38-centimeter cannons. Simultaneously, they also planned and emplaced 4 identical cannons in Hanstholm, Denmark, which is located 116 kilometers directly across the Skagerrak Channel. Organization TOT sent surveyors, architects, and engineers to Kristiansand to begin the planning of what would become Battery Vara. Organization TOT issued a contract for construction of Battery Vara sometime early in 1941. The primary contractor was a German firm, which then subcontracted a Danish company to build the reinforced steel framing of the battery's bunkers. Norwegian companies were contracted to mix and pour the cement for the facility. At the height of construction, more than 1,400 men worked here, 300 German, 350 Danes, and 750 Norwegians. This meant that, during the period of its construction, Battery Vara was the largest employer in Kristiansand. That construction was quite extensive. More than 53,000 cubic meters of rock were blasted out of the native stone. That construction was quite extensive. More than 53,000 cubic meters of rock were blasted out of the native stone. 29,000 cubic meters of concrete was poured during construction. 4 kilometers of roads and 2.5 kilometers of narrow-gauge railroad were laid, and 4.3 kilometers of water pipes were installed. By December 1942, cannons 2, 3, and 4 were mounted and had been test-fired. However, due to the need to finish construction of the command and control systems, the guns were not fired as a battery until November of 1943. Sometime prior to the active commissioning of the guns, the facility was named Battery Vara, after General Major Felix Vara, who was killed during the invasion of the Channel Islands in 1941. Battery Vara was intended to provide artillery support to cover the 10 nautical mile wide shipping channels along the coasts of Norway and Denmark. These channels needed to remain open to German merchant ships so they could continue to travel through the Skagerrak. The guns also kept Allied warships from attacking this shipping, as well as preventing them from removing the 13,000 marine mines that were laid out in huge minefields across the width of the Skagerrak. This combination of minefields and these huge naval artillery pieces was completely successful in its mission. The Allies were able to fly over the Skagerrak, but no Allied warship ever braved the crossing. In December of 1942, 200 Soviet prisoners of war were interned at and put to work on the construction site. They were primarily responsible for the stone and earthen works that served to camouflage the bunkers. They were housed in barracks 1 kilometer north of the facility and were cared for well enough by the citizens of Kristiansand that all of them survived the war. Following the German capitulation in May of 1945, Battery Vara was taken into use by the Norwegian military. In 1946, it was renamed Møvik Fort and became part of Coastal Artillery Brigade South. After 1953, it was included in Kristiansand Fort. Møvik Fort was decommissioned as a naval artillery facility by a resolution of the Storting in 1958 and became a training ground for Home Guard Unit HV-07. A number of the bunkers were used by NATO for small-caliber ammunition storage, equipment storage, and as a depot until 1992, when the end of the Cold War led to the complete decommissioning of the facility. Today, Møvik Fort contains Battery Vara's 4 gun emplacements with their associated bunkers, of which only Cannon 2 and its bunker remain intact, and it houses the Kristiansand Cannon Museum. The other cannons and their machinery were scrapped in 1962. The fort is also comprised of several anti-aircraft emplacements, machine gun positions, a few remaining buildings, and numerous bunkers and tunnels.